All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open a bottle and a mystery, one that's got everything. Tequila, its smoky cousin mezcal, and, well, a very misunderstood little creature.
So let's just dive right in, shall we? You know what I'm talking about, the worm in the tequila bottle. It's the stuff of legends, right? The ultimate bar dare. But what if I told you the whole story is basically a lie?
Okay, first things first, let's just get this out of the way. Real, authentic tequila, it never has a worm in it. I mean, it's actually against the rules. So if you're looking at a bottle with a worm, it's not tequila, period. And here's the other big secret. That little guy at the bottom, it's not even a worm. It's actually an insect larva, kind of like a caterpillar. So hold on. If it's not in tequila and it's not a worm, what on earth are we even talking about?
To figure this out, we've got to look at the actual spirit it calls home. And that's mezcal. Think of mezcal as tequila's older, smokier, maybe a little more mysterious cousin. Here's a key thing to remember. All tequila is technically a type of mezcal, but not all mezcal is tequila. And you can see right here how different they really are. Tequila is super specific, right? It can only be made from blue Weber agave, and it's steamed in big industrial ovens. That's what gives it that smooth, often sweet taste we all know. But mezcal? Oh, mezcal is a different beast entirely. It can be made from over 30 different types of agave. And that signature smoky, earthy flavor, that comes from roasting the agave hearts in these ancient-style underground pits. Totally different vibe. So, you can see their family tree starts in the same place. Both of them have roots in this ancient drink called pulque. But their paths totally diverged. When the Spanish brought over distillation, things started to change. Tequila went big. It became this global, industrialized powerhouse. And in 1974, it got its own special status. Kind of like how champagne can only come from Champagne, France. Mezcal, on the other hand, stayed true to its roots. It stayed small batch, artisanal, and it got its own protected status 20 years later to make sure it stayed that way. Okay, so we've got our location pinned down. We're talking about mezcal, not tequila. Now we can finally play detective and figure out what that creature at the bottom of the bottle really is. And believe it or not, for a long, long time, nobody was really sure. Seriously, for decades, people argued about the true identity of the gusano. That's the Spanish word for it. There were a few main suspects, all from the insect world, that kept getting blamed for ending up pickled in this amazing spirit. So who were the prime suspects? You had the agave snout weevil. Sounds appetizing. Then there was the larva of a butterfly, which, get this, is called the tequila giant skipper. Super misleading, right? And finally, the larva of a moth. The stories were all over the place. Even the labels on the bottles couldn't seem to agree. But then, finally, science stepped in to settle the score. A study came out just last year, in 2023, where researchers basically did a DNA test. They took larvae from 21 different bottles of mezcal and ran the DNA to get a final, definitive answer. And the results were, well, they couldn't have been clearer. Every single sample that they could get DNA from came back as a perfect match for one species, and one species only, Comadia redtenbacheri. It's the agave redworm moth. So there you have it. Case closed. It's not a weevil, it's not a butterfly, it's the caterpillar of this one specific moth. So the big question is, why? Why is it even in there in the first place? Well, it's not some ancient, mystical tradition, I can tell you that. It was actually a marketing gimmick, pure and simple. Started back in the 1940s or 50s by a distiller named Jacobo Lozano Pais. He figured, hey, if I put this little guy in the bottle, it'll stand out. And you know what? He was right. It totally worked. All right, so we've busted the myth. The worm is a moth larva, and it was a marketing ploy. But now we can talk about the real story, what truly makes mezcal so incredible. Because honestly, its real value has absolutely nothing to do with what you might find at the bottom of the bottle. I saw this quote from a bar manager on Reddit that really nails it. They said it's their responsibility to teach people about the cultural value of mezcal, about the spirit itself, and just as importantly, about the lives of the people who pour their hearts into making it. Because that's the real story here. It's not about a moth larva. It's about the mezcaleros, the master producers. It's about generations of families passing down this knowledge. It's about their deep connection to the land, especially in Oaxaca. It's about preserving these incredible artisanal traditions and supporting the local communities. That's the magic of mezcal.
You know, another person from the mezcal world put it perfectly. You don't find the deep knowledge of mezcal in books, you find it in the lives of the communities where it's made. Of course, the best way to get it is to go there, to visit a palenque, that's a distillery, in Oaxaca. But if you can't, a great place to start is the book Finding Mezcal. It's by a guy named Ron Cooper, who is really one of the pioneers in bringing true artisanal mezcal to the rest of the world. His book really documents that journey.
So now you know the real story. The next time you see a bottle of mezcal, you'll know the truth isn't about some worm. It's about a moth larva, a really smart marketing plan from the 50s. But more than that, you'll know the real spirit of mezcal is found in its history, its culture, and the incredible people who make it. So here's my question for you. Knowing that whole journey, from the moth to the maker, how does that change what's in your glass?